Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Before we begin today, as a reminder, on Monday we kick off our latest week special with Imperial Fists Week, the Sons of Rogel Dawn. However, on to today, and today we are discussing the Aeldari facing the Emperor, how they perceive his power. Spoiler warning to begin, as the events we're discussing today are from the Warhammer 40k novel Throneworld by author Guy Hayley. As always, I really recommend you read the stories for yourself first without spoilers, as that's the best way to enjoy the lore for yourself. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. So, the Emperor of Mankind is the most powerful psyker in the galaxy. The most powerful psyker in existence, really. And I don't think there'd be too much argument at that fact, even from the renowned psychic race of the Aeldari. Sure, they may be a far more psychic race generally than humanity, and have been since before mankind even spread across the stars. But in terms of raw power, even their strongest, pales in comparison to the Emperor, let alone the now God Emperor he has become. But as that psychic sensitive race the Aeldari are, their perception of the Emperor has always intrigued me. We had quite an interesting glimpse within the Dark Imperium Godblight novel, where Guilliman asked his Aeldari representative and advisor Ilian Nataze how he perceives the Emperor within the warp. And Nataze stated, "I see no god or man, I see the great light of your beacon. From it comes pain and suffering," said Nataze, uneasy for once. "Who can tell if what I see in the light is true? Our lore tells us your master ever was chameleonic. Maybe he is truly dead. Perhaps if you turned off your machines, then the light would die. It is impossible to say. Every thread of the skein that leads to him is burned to nothing. His path cannot be predicted. He cannot be looked upon directly. Some of my kind maintain that he is the great break on your species, yet its only shield, that he is the poison to the galaxy that might save us all, that he is not one, but broken, fractured, and properly healed, and with his power marshalled again, could outmatch the great gods themselves. Others say he is nothing, that the light that burns so painfully over Terra is but an echo of a luminous being long gone. We must judge his worth to our species by inference alone." So, as ever with the Aeldari, a bit of a vague description. We know most commonly it's the light of the Astronomicon that is taken as the sign of the Emperor within the warp, and that the overwhelming sensation of this is the Emperor's suffering, his eternal sacrifice. Aside from that, the Aeldari seem as unknowing and conflicted as humanity. That he may be dead, he is the saviour of the galaxy or its doom, that he is no longer one, but fractured, and that if he can be healed he'll be more powerful than the ruinous powers, or that his light is an echo of a being long gone. We can certainly see similarities with parts of that with our common beliefs, that the Emperor's mind is fractured into several parts, as we saw him draw them all back together to speak to Guilliman. If he can be healed and become all-powerful, certainly echoing the Starchild narrative. However, all in all, nothing too surprising there. If anything, it actually kind of shows how the Emperor is quite possibly a large topic of debate amongst the Aeldari too, and quite rightly so, considering his power and position within the galaxy. However, we did actually get to see how an Aeldari reacted in person to the power and presence of the Emperor within the novel Throneworld by Guy Hayley. As here, during the Beast Arises saga, the Aeldari actually infiltrated the Imperial Palace. Now, as a quick summary for those new to the lore or who just aren't particularly familiar with this era, around 1500 years after the heresy, the Imperium faced a monumental assault on all fronts by the Orcs across the galaxy. And though that doesn't sound too surprising to us now, back during this time, the Orcs had been largely destroyed and no threat at all since the Great Crusade, thanks to the Emperor shattering their empire upon Ulanor. So it was a massive and unprecedented event. And during a part of this conflict, the Orcs even managed to teleport an attack moon into orbit over Terra, causing, as you would expect, no small amount of panic upon the Throneworld. And it was here, within the depths of this despair and turmoil, that the Aeldari came into play, as ever beneath the guidance of Eldrad Ulfran, as a small contingent of Harlequins managed to enter the palace via the webway. Now, how they managed to do this, considering the portal upon Terra was forever closed, who knows? But at the cost of several Waysingers' lives, they managed to open a slit within the webway, deep within the Imperial Palace. The webway parted to reveal a dark and soulless place beyond. Ulfran approached the Shadowseer. Laeriel leapt to her feet, performing an elaborate bow. "Take this token, given to me 1500 cycles ago," said Ulfran. He held out a large, finely carved tooth hanging from a chain. "It will convince the monkey of your deadly sincerity." Laeriel Ray took the tooth and spoke her gratitude with a gesture. Ulfran pointed his staff at the portal. "Go. Go now. The door is open, but will not remain so for long." The webway spur convulsed. The grav barge that had borne the party there rocked, disturbed by shifts in the physics of that in-between realm. The attention of the great enemy pressed down upon the walls, whispering her seductive call to the annihilation of self that every Eldar felt. The webway was damaged here, and perilous. Laeriel Ray's troop tensed. No other but a Harlequin could see it, the micro-shifts in stance and muscle. The doorway peeled itself back, just wide enough to admit a single Eldar at a time. "We dance," said Laeriel Ray. In a bright flurry of shattering silhouettes, the troop of joyful tears departed the webway. The hall on the far side of the portal was of lifeless stone. Parts panelled in wood killed 1,000 light years away and brought in slow drying agony across the stars. This world was as dead as its ruler. The stink of humanity lay thick upon it. The statues near the ceiling coated in dust. The shed skin cells of people 500 cycles gone. The psychic effect was a hideous weight. Thousands of years of human suffering pressing in on Laeriel's sensitive mind. And that was the least of it. Crushing the sensation of the dead of the earth was the titanic presence of the corpse emperor. So immediately upon arriving on Terra, the presence of the Emperor is felt. And what a description that is. Crushing the sensation of the dead of Earth was the titanic presence of the Corpse Emperor. Here, with their immensely powerful psychic minds overwhelmed by the arrival upon Terra, the thousands of years of residual psychic effect, thousands of years, it is all crushed by the presence and power of the Emperor. That is how he is perceived by the Aeldari. The pure titanic, unimaginable power of the master of mankind. And I have to say, I loved that little piece of detail about the ruinous powers noticing the Aeldari's efforts within the webway, pressing against it to try and break in. Because it makes sense. They've been assaulting Terra for over 1,000 years at this point, only held back by the Emperor's power. They would absolutely notice the Aeldari manipulating the webway nearby, especially Slaanesh of all the four. Such power made Lariel's mind reel, and for a moment her contempt for the creatures of Terra wavered. The mind of the Emperor was a mountain in the surging madness of the Otherseas, blinding in its brilliance. The great powers circled this place like razor shark waiting out the death throes of a void whale. That terrible presence held them back, and all his little servants were ignorant of it. Unease gripped her, that she would be noticed by the dark gods or their defier, and the fragile flame of her being snuffed out. The feeling passed. The regard of the things of the Otherseas was ossified. So long had they fixed their gaze on the earth. The Emperor did not shift his regard. His attention was elsewhere, upon the blinding pyre of souls, navigation beacon of the monkey. She had no indication she was seen. There was little relief in that. She had laughed in the face of she who thirsts, but the corpse Emperor filled her with a sense of dread. Few among the Eldar could stand to be in such a place. To the left and right, she saw her fellows go through the same stumble and recovery, their sensitive minds disturbed. When the dance resumed, their steps were heavier than before. What a passage. What a description that is. The Emperor is so powerful that the mere presence of it is almost enough to have the Harlequin re-evaluating her ancient engraved position on humanity. Such power made Lariel's mind reel, and for a moment her contempt for the creatures of Terra wavered. And again, this isn't even within the throne room. This is simply within the vast continent-spanning construct that is the Imperial Palace. Just imagine how the Aeldari would feel being confronted by the Emperor in person. The mind of the Emperor was a mountain in the surging madness of the Otherseas, blinding in its brilliance. You can just feel the contrasting shock and awe at the Emperor's might here. For so long the Aeldari have looked down on humanity, all of them treating mankind as nothing more than ignorant children, playthings with no true talent or ability, a burden on the fate of the galaxy. Yet here, she is confronted by the aura of the master of mankind, and you can just see how completely overwhelming that is. All the Aeldari know of the Emperor, know of the story of humanity, yet you can see how they certainly don't know the truth, the true power of the Emperor. The great powers circled this place like razor shark, waiting on the death throes of a void whale. That terrible presence held them back, and all his little servants were ignorant of it. There, confirmation, from an unbiased viewpoint, that it is the Emperor holding back the combined forces of the Pantheon, of the ruinous powers, that he and he alone has since he ascended the throne, that humanity truly owes him everything. As powerful as the Four are, they simply aren't powerful enough. And again, an unexpected, immediately overwhelming sense of respect seeping through. his little servants ignorant of it, giving you the sense in the way she thinks it, that if this were the Aeldari, they would acknowledge and revere this power, this sacrifice. But of course humanity does, in its own misinformed way. And perhaps the most defining reflection of all, there was little relief in that. She had laughed in the face of she who thirsts, but the corpse emperor filled her with a sense of dread. This is a shadow seer of the Harlequins here, the followers of the Laughing God, not only the preeminent warriors amongst the Aeldari, but those who have defied Slaanesh, who, as she states, laugh in the face of her. Yet in coming face to face with the will, the might of the Emperor, she is filled with dread. A being who can face the ruinous powers without fear, yet is terrified by the presence of the Emperor. What a passage. What a passage. These are the kind of descriptions that just make the lore what it is. Not an epic event, not an almighty inspiring speech, but a simple piece of inner thought, of reflection. And it just absolutely gives you goosebumps. Absolutely awesome. How different the Aeldari's outlook on humanity might be, were they all to become aware of the might of the master of mankind. But as always everyone, what do you think? Are you surprised a Shadowseer of the Harlequins could be so shocked by the Emperor's power? Does it surprise you that she wasn't more aware of what it would be, and that it's the Emperor who is more terrifying than even the god Slaanesh? And do you think if all the Aeldari knew just how powerful the Emperor was, that he alone could hold back the ruinous powers, it would change their relationship with humanity? And if so, would it be for the better of the Aeldari, or worse? As always everyone, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again on Monday for our next week special.